Welcome to the Turtle Galley Recipes, and for our very first cooking segment, let's do a crowd favorite, butter chicken. Let's take a look at all the ingredients we need. It may seem daunting at first, but don't worry, when you break this recipe down, it's something that you can make. You do need to do the marination ahead of time, so watch the whole video and then plan out your meal accordingly. Now let's jump in! To begin with, let's make some rice with our dish. Take 1 cup of basmati rice and wash it thoroughly. Even on a boat with limited access to water, washing rice is not a step you can skip. We are cooking 1 cup of rice, and that means for basmati rice, we are using a 1 to 2 1/4 rice to water ratio. This ratio differs for each rice type. Place it on low heat with a lid and cook it for 15 to 20 minutes, checking often towards the end to make sure that all the water is gone. Now let's jump into the butter chicken. First, let's cut up our chicken into small pieces. You can use chicken thigh or breast depending on your taste and availability. For the marination, you're going to mix up cumin, garam masala, salt, turmeric, chili powder, and yogurt. For ease, I mix it in a Ziploc bag and store it in the fridge for at least an hour, preferably overnight, and to a max of 24 hours. Next up is our mise en place. Cut up an onion, ginger, garlic, and chili peppers. I've got frozen ginger that I'm cutting up, but you can use fresh ginger, ginger garlic paste that you find in the store, or even ginger powder. Use whatever is available to you. We also have minced garlic in the fridge, so you won't see me cutting it here, but you will see me using it in the recipe later. And finally, chop up some chili peppers. These are the peppers available to us, but you can use whatever is available for you. You can use the type and amount of peppers you're comfortable with. I like to cut up my peppers big so we can pick them out later, but you can mince them up. There are recipes where you can actually put all 4 of these ingredients in a blender. I like tasting the different textures, so for me personally, I like chopping them up. Alright, let's fire things up. Heat up some oil and drop in cloves, star anise, and a cinnamon stick broken in half. Keep an eye on the heat, and if the oil starts to smoke, lower the heat. Once the spices start to pop, it is time to add the ingredients you prepped. If you happen to have the powdered versions of any of these ingredients, don't worry about going out to buy raw versions of these just for this recipe. Save them, add the powdered version you have to the spice portion of this recipe later. Alright, first let's add the onions. You chopped up the onion pretty finely, so it should cook up pretty quickly. Keep an eye on the heat as not to burn the onions. Once they start to turn translucent, then it's time to add the rest of the prep ingredients. I add the tomato paste and garlic and ginger and chili peppers. Our tomato paste is frozen, so that'll take a little longer to cook. Make sure to be stirring pretty constantly so nothing burns. And just as a reminder, keep an eye on that rice that's cooking on the other burner. Let's cook this for a few minutes as all of these need to blend their flavors together. Once the ingredients start to lose their raw smell and the oil from the tomato paste starts to separate, put in half a stick of butter and melt it. I use half the butter at this point to help me activate the spices. It's not called butter chicken for nothing. We will add the other half of the stick later in the recipe. If you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can add an entire stick of butter here, something I've done in the past, and honestly, I didn't taste that much of a difference in the end. I particularly like to roast my spices in butter as I feel that it brings out their flavors more than just oil. Once the butter is all melted, put in all of our dry spices. Remember that most spices are not super fresh, so be generous with your amounts. And if you feel that they're particularly old, maybe taste it first before you add it. You might need to get some fresh version of that. At this point, your house should be smelling amazing. Sauté up the spices until it becomes a well-incorporated paste. Then add your tomato sauce. Now I've added half a bottle of plain marinara sauce, but you can use canned tomato puree or homemade tomato sauce. If you're using marinara sauce, make sure it's not flavored, as the Italian flavors can overwhelm or confuse the Indian ones. The tomato sauce is for the creaminess, and the tomato paste we added earlier is for acidity and that umami flavor. We are not doubling up, as they serve 2 different purposes. Mix everything up, Lower the heat if it starts to sputter and cook for 5 to 10 minutes until all the flavors are incorporated into the sauce. Once the sauce appears to be incorporated, add the heavy cream. You can also add yogurt if you'd like, but it can split, so be careful. The amount of heavy cream depends on what color you'd like the curry to be, how much of the spice you'd like to tap down, and how creamy you like your curry. That's why pouring in little by little, mixing in between, and tasting it once in a while will give you a good idea on how your curry is looking and tasting. Cook this blend for 5 to 10 minutes until everything incorporates together. You can taste it for flavor and add any spices you feel are lacking. Our final ingredient is a marinated chicken. You can add the chicken straight to the curry, or you can broil the chicken pieces under a broiler in the oven or grill it for a few minutes to give them a slight char and cook them about halfway. Mix everything together and cook for another 10 to 15 minutes. Mix intermittently and check for doneness of the chicken by taking one and cutting it in half. You want a white center, but be careful not to overcook it. And once you've confirmed that the chicken is cooked, you can add the second half of our stick of butter. You can turn off the heat at this time and incorporate the butter to give it that final creamy, buttery taste and also a great shine to your curry. If you like your curry to have more gravy, you can always increase the amount of tomato sauce and heavy cream that you use. Let's check on our rice. There is no sign of water or bubbles, and all we see is steam coming off. The rice is flaky and soft to the touch, and there's no liquid at the bottom. Our rice is done! Let's give ourselves a heaping helping of rice, or whatever you like to eat your butter chicken with. And of course, the main event, the creamy, delicious butter chicken. I hope you enjoyed our very first cooking segment, and if you have any requests, feel free to write them in the comments for future recipe ideas. We'll be doing more of these cooking segments in the future. Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe and check out our sailing adventures on Turtle.